Don't go to art college, it's expensive. Yes, it may cost you thousands or tens of thousands of dollars. How much is that in euros? About thousands or tens of thousands of euros. Oh, that's a lot. Yes, it is. What a waste of money. Instead, you should go to portraitartacademy.com. There, for a very small fee, you can get access to hundreds of videos, ebooks, tutorials, and much more that will teach you the same kinds of things that you would learn in college and save yourself that money. And it's much cheaper. Yeah, that was my point. Ugh, he's so slow to catch on sometimes. But in this lesson, we're going to talk about composition. Now, there are many compositions, and we'll discuss some of the main ones in the next video. But here is a creative take by someone on all these different compositions. And you don't have to memorize all these. You don't have to think oh, which one am I going to use? All you have to know is that there is a certain way to put things, the objects or people, into the piece of art, and that it's often done on purpose to create a certain feel, that we're trying to create interesting compositions here. Now this one is called the steel yard. See, there's this big one and then there's a little one, and so you could do that with trees and with environment. A balanced scale, so here's something in the center like a mountain or like a cloud or an explosion or something. There's this O or circle, here's a lake, here's clouds. So yeah, it can be done with different objects and different things. The S, of course, it could be done with a river. Here's a creek. And then there's this one, which I don't know what it's called. But it's interesting, for sure. Here are more compositions. Obviously, you can create a triangle, either with a tree or with three objects that kind of determine the center of focus across. So that's often done with sailing boats, or it could be done with a horizon and then something crossing that horizon like a tree. Radiating line like a sunset, or maybe not even just radiation like a sunset, but just a road leading up to a little house in the distance. That can also be something that focuses on that in the distance, and then all the lines in perspective, they go to it. Then there's a rectangle, or the L. Obviously you can use that. It's kind of similar to one of the other ones. And then there's this one where you can have a radiating line throughout it. Another, they call this the suspended steel yard. So it could be, instead of the horizon being at the bottom, you have it at the top. You could do that with water and reflective surfaces. You can do that with water and reflective surfaces. The three spot, so there's three spots in this image. So that's an interesting composition. The group mass, so everything's clunked together. Then points of interest in the center. So something's interesting in the center, but there's a lot going around it. And then the scattered masses rearranged. So that one really doesn't look as interesting to me, but it's like, there's so much to see, and it's kind of all over the place. Here are just a few more. The diagonal line, obviously that's a very interesting composition. It could be going from top left to bottom right, or the other way around. The tunnel, a lot of times we see photographs or paintings where there's an arch, or there's like this little alleyway of this old European city or cathedral or monastery. But it could also happen with trees. It could happen in a lot of ways. Then the silhouette, which is also interesting. Basically, the foreground is just one big black blur, but it does create a shape that contrasts with the background. So you could do that with sailing boats, or you could do that with people. All these things can be done with people. It's just all about shapes. It's not really about the objects itself. That's what composition is all about. You try to create something with the people or the objects or the nature or the animals or whatever you put in it, but it's all about creating an interesting shape that does something to the viewer when he looks at a square or a rectangle, because that's usually what a canvas is, or a piece of paper. They're not usually round, and then creates some kind of dynamic. And I hope you understand. See, this is the pattern, which means there's some kind of pattern in it, but there's a lot of detail and it's all over the place. Again, these are some composition ideas. All you have to think of is okay, is this static? Does this reflect calmness and quietness and stillness? Or do I want to create something dynamic, something in movement, something that moves in a certain direction or circles around? And that's how you create, that's how you place as a puzzle those objects or people in your work of art.